Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
While you're in sunny Florida, be sure to visit
WARlando! Enter into a world of epic adventure.
Hello, welcome to NPR's Talking Games. Tonight's host will be replaced by Adam Billings because the other one is on a scream singing tour of Central Africa, and we haven't found them ever since they went on their tour, but when they come back, they'll be able to talk about sweaty wieners and donuts on the next NPR special of gaming.
And now we'll take a break to bring you.
And now we'll take a break to bring you a brief interlude of jazz, bluegrass, and heavy metal merged together on top of each other. It sounds terrible, but it's very popular in Portland. I don't know. I don't listen to NPR. An exciting story about an Holocaust surviving dog who was able to stop Hitler. I don't know. You know, they always have the weird shit on the
yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to WARlando.
Did we start already?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, crap.
I am Adam, and with us as usual is
Nicholas.
And we have a very special guest this evening, the Lord Commander, first of his name, King of the Andals, the Warrinar, and the First Men.
That's all true.
Did you say the motherfucker of dragons?
I am. And Breaker of Chains, that's true.
Doctor Funromicon.
Dr. Funromicon, that's all true.
Yeah.
Real name is Dr. Dan Siegel, and I am actually a doctor of gaming. But we can't go through all my titles because it's only an hour-long podcast. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I kid people.
You're a doctor of gaming.
I am.
That's awesome. That is one of the most amazing doctorate titles you can probably have.
So, I tell games to get on the table and cough. And if it sounds weird, I just say this game sucks. We can't help it. It's beyond surgery.
So, how did you get into that?
When I was a younger man, my grandmother used to say, if you're in if you play coin-op games in the arcade, you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Not if you know what I'm talking about.
I don't think I know what you're talking about.
Coin.
Coin.
Yeah, like an arcade.
Coin operated.
Yeah,
I thought you were saying like a weird Q word, coin operated, like
it was a software.
Okay, the reason I said that was because Adam was like, "Oh yeah, I totally understand." And Nicholas looked at me like I grew a horn while I said it.
I was waiting for the follow up, and then I would have been like, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
So
coin, not
coin operated. Yeah, you put in a quarter, you get
a play.
3 minutes of play or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. So my grandmother used to say people are throwing their money away, and it created this question in my head: why would people throw their money away, or why do people play? Moving up to today, let's say PS4s or laptops or PlayStations or whatever, instead of doing anything else. And that's a question that's always kind of plagued me, and I studied a lot of research articles on motivation and try to answer the question of why do people play games, any kind of games. What is the compulsion? Because really and truly, when you think about games, they're just a level of frustration. Mm-hmm. When we talk about specifically like Warhammer type games, you got to buy it. It's incredibly expensive. You got to put it together. You got to paint it. You got to find people to play with it. You have to play with them. You have to be a good enough sport to where they'll want to play with you again. And that's a lot of work. You have to put on deodorant.
Yeah.
Or else they won't play with you again.
No.
Yeah, there's a big social aspect.
I feel like I need to rethink my life here.
You have to rethink your life.
Yeah.
I played with Adam once, years ago, I think before your daughter was born. He never played with me again.
We played more than once.
Nope.
Because you had a couple different armies.
I played undead against your dark elves.
That was the only time we played?
That was the only time we played, and I asked to play with you. Remember at that big WARlando Conorama?
Yeah.
And you never got to my turn. And I'm just like, wow, he must really hate me. I must have been a true gigantic penis to not be able to play with him again.
Absolutely not, but I thought you had another army before that one.
I have tons of armies. That's why my wife sometimes looks at that
you had
divorce
like a
paper.
Nurgle army.
Oh, I did. That's how I played against him. And then after I played you, my Nurgle army, you never played with me again.
I played your Death Army, your zombies.
That's true. Yeah, that was really fun. That was a fun battle. Yeah.
What happened was, I think...
You vomited on my Demon Prince.
We went to Age of Sigmar, and you went to Kings of War.
That could be it. But you also vomited on my Demon Prince. with your trolls.
I did.
And I was like, wow, that was a quick 600 points down the toilet. my wife's like, hey, well, how did it happen? He threw up on me. And she's like, WARlando is brought to you by Paradiso Pizza for the Upside Down Sicilian. You have to try it. It's really good. I promised the guy who owns it I'd give him a pitch.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm going to a podcast. He's like, give me a pitch for free. I'm broke. And I'd be like, okay.
So back to vomiting.
That got really loud all of a sudden.
Wahoo, bam.
Back to vomiting.
Yeah.
Chapter 2, vomiting. It's like one of those Quentin Tarantino movies.
Right.
Know? Yeah, so you vomited on my
Well, back to frustrations.
Okay.
Like, how frustrating is that when you paint a model, you build it, you paint it, you secure 600 points worth in your army, put it out on the table, and then it gets vomited on, and then it gets taken off the table.
Oh, it's horrifying. Like, it's a horrifying feeling when you sit, when you like look in the mirror after that night, and you're thinking about what you did wrong, and you're like, why did I buy that model? That model was supposed to be so badass, and all it was like, it was like one of those things where it's like, hey, shoot me, guys, shoot me. Right here, I'm the general, you know? It's like, that's why in wars, high-ranked officers don't wear banners and bars, because snipers will break the Geneva Convention and shoot them.
Yeah.
But why doesn't WARlando follow the
that just made me think of it. Why don't, like, I should paint my model to look like the terrain I'm playing on.
Oh, absolutely. Actually,
and then you just won't even notice it out there. You'll forget. You'll be like, oh man, I thought that was a bush.
I made the weirdest army that my wife thought was so awesome and no one else did. I bought Mantic Games Mars Attacks figures.
Okay, yeah.
And I made a stealth unit that looks like the base, and it looks like they're changing, like kind of like chameleon changing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I played them as Tau because my wife loved Mars Attacks. And I thought it was the coolest army ever.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted to play it with me.
Yeah.
Like, they're really small. We don't know which player's which. And I'm like, but it's so cool looking, you know?
That's the whole WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. That's
Yeah.
And the problem is with tournament armies. I don't know if you saw the 40k armies in at Historicon or Hurricon or one of those.
Yeah.
But like, they're so narrow. Like, forget about WYSIWYG. Like, there are guys who's like, I'm only fielding Valkyries if I play Imperial Guard because that's the only thing that's competitive, and that's so sad because it takes all the fun out of it.
Absolutely, it does.
You know, it's like, who wants the parade of Valkyries? What is this? Apocalypse Now? You know,
right?
It's just weird.
I feel like I'm always like trying to fit all of the things in my Chaos Space Marine army because it's so diverse. But I'm like, I don't know what I want to play. I want to play with everything. So I'm like, oh, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, a little bit of that.
Exactly. And then they'll come up to you and they'll be like,
oh, here's 4 knights.
Chaos Space Marines suck now. So why are you even bothering having fun in your life? You know.
You started talking about how you got into gaming. Seeing the coin-operated games.
Yeah. So I was always curious why people play games, because in so many ways it's incredibly frustrating, especially like when we talked about, you know, you get a certain model. And I love Warhammer.
Yeah.
And you get a certain model, and it's like totally blows as far as creating offense or having defensive capabilities. But it's a really cool-looking model, and you had fun painting it. And sometimes we forget, well, I had a lot of fun painting it, putting it in my army, so doesn't that count? No, because I lost. But it's funny because I had stopped playing Warhammer and stuff for a long time because I was getting my PhD in this and that, and they opened a Warhammer store. And I said, my wife's like, what's that store? And I'm like, oh, you don't want to know. And she's like, what is it? I'm like, she's like, I don't mind if you go look at it. And I'm like, you're opening a box. It's like the Le Marché box from Hellraiser. I'm not even going to say Pandora's box.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're opening that box,
that
and you
box.
can't close it once you open it.
Yeah.
She's like, what's the worst that can happen? And my living room looks like your living room, and it's just total insanity.
End up like the guy at the end of Hellraiser.
Exactly.
Jesus wept.
Yes, exactly. Like, there's chains in my guts, and I'm still trying to put together the city. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's a lot of fun though. And so I went on to get a PhD, and at the time, gaming was just so not accepted in the world of academia because they were just like, oh, there's no value to it, there's no use to it. And like, something happened over the last 11 years. I'm gonna say that a lot of baby boomers retired, and a lot of, I guess we're Generation X is starting to like balance between baby boomers and millennials. And millennials completely accept gaming. Like, it's not even a question.
Yeah.
Even female millennials are like, okay, well, I'm playing Pokemon Go and Harry Potter, and
Yeah.
my phone tells me I'm a wizard. And it's like, all right, whatever. I can't judge her because I have a living room full of a fake city I'm making, and now I have to
tiny baby city.
My tiny baby city that I have to make some kind of homage to Wrecker Hauer made, rest in peace, because But so really, it's a weird thing that's happening over the last, I would say, 5 years, because when I teach a class at Full Sail called Game Strategies and Motivation, and I love it, and Full Sail is a great school. And I teach teachers how to use gaming in the classroom. I was also at Serious Play, which is a conference about using education and gaming as a tool of delivering content. So it's really interesting because it's done a 180 in so many ways, where gaming is so much more accepted, not just for people, but for educators as well. And I think that the next big hurdle is for things like Warhammer to become even more mainstream, where everybody knows what it is and what you do and this and that. Because it's already happened with D&D. I mean, I'm shocked at how there's a part of me that's like, well, this D&D is going to die out, and it's going to be like some kind of all virtual. But it's totally the opposite has happened, and I think that the next big wave may be Warhammer and more tabletop games, because
they're making a TV show.
Yeah, with the
for
guys
Warhammer.
From the X-File. Yeah. And I think it's going to be really big because, remember, you guys remember, if you had like comic book shirts and stuff, you were like a total nerd. Now it's like you see hot chicks wearing, and I don't mean this in any way sexist, but like good-looking girls wear comic book shirts now, and I think it's great.
It's mainstream. It's totally mainstream.
Exactly. And
if you made Mean Girls today, the movie, they would have had they'd have comic book shirts on or whatever.
Making fun of the person that didn't read Harry Potter.
Yeah,
they're
right.
now the outsider.
And ironically, Lindsay Lohan dated Bruce Willis. Did you know that? They dated her for a short time.
Isn't
that
really
mind-boggling? He's like her grandpa.
Yeah, at least
when I read that, I was just like, what?
Yeah.
And she was a huge fan of his and this and that. And I'm like, well, I think there's still hope for old guys after all, I guess. I don't know. But, so it's an exciting time. And I'm not just talking about the gender divide. I'm also talking about the racial divide. Because if you remember, like when we were younger, I never saw minorities playing D&D, and now it's like a total thing for not just females but for minorities as well, which is a wonderful thing. I mean, I'm not, it's not a judgment call, and I hope the same thing happens with wargaming. Yeah,
I think Warhammer or Games Workshop is starting to adopt that way more now. With the release of Age of Sigmar, they've had a chance to kind of reboot things and revamp it, and I was actually like really close. Like I felt like really like I needed to step away from Warhammer, like from 40K for a while and different things, because I was like, I don't think they're promoting diversity at all in this game. And then with the reboot with Age of Sigmar, they've started to cater to women. They've started to cater to people of color and different things like that. And now I feel like, okay, this is great. We want all of this diversity. But now they're starting to change the molds and add diversity to the molds so that some are women and some are male, different things like that.
They're walking that line too, where it used to be the only time you'd see a woman, she's in like a metal bikini. And now they're actually women in realistic armor, and they're not sex objects on the table, that they're just women warriors. Right. Women soldiers.
I'm tired of minotaurs wearing sexy bikinis. They're not just cow people anymore. They have feelings. I don't know. Just kidding. You always see like these big brass bulls. I said big brass bulls.
Big brass bulls.
Big brass bulls. I got some big brass bulls for this game. Woohoo!
Yeah, I think it's an exciting time, and you're talking about acceptance of gaming as like a legitimate career. Like we all grew up now with gaming consoles in our home for the most part,
Sure.
Or new like from birth. Like first, like I just got my dad's.
You came out with the Atari joystick, and
almost, because he had a gaming system from what in television.
I had that too.
Yeah,
television was the stuff, man.
It's actually we can open it up later. It's all in there.
Oh,
yeah, we'll take a look afterwards. I'll show you. But it's like he's got like 30 games in there, and that was my first introduction to Dungeons and Dragons, because he had an advanced
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, he had that game.
Did you play it on easy? Because hard.
I couldn't. I was too young to figure out how to play it.
Impossible, because the dragon moved at like 100 miles an hour.
Going from that from coin-operated stuff, and now you've got school like Full Sail, who has all these game design degrees. What do you think that evolution was for those programs to even develop?
Oh, that's a really good question. As things go into society and become more and more accepted, like it becomes more universal. I don't know how to put that. Think about how cultural changes occur in a society, like not having children, not getting married. Like, there are major cultural changes that have happened, I would say, in the last 60 years. Like, when I was a kid...
Waiting till you're older to have kids.
Waiting till you're older to have kids. Yeah. When I was a kid, like I was telling my wife, there's stuff that was so different. Like, if you were a couple, you were expected at some point to get married. And that was just it. You know? But, like, you have people cohabitating. So what am I talking about? And I'm not saying in any way judgmental. But, like, I think the same thing happened with gaming. Like,
they just lived together long enough.
It was just a nerdy thing for nerds, and then eventually, like, the sisters of the people who are nerding out, and then a lot of times also it's integration. I mean, nowadays you could be married and have a hot wife and still play D&D and not be called a nerd. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of chic and cool. Yeah. Personally, I think it's a little bit of a cultural appropriation. I think all these geeks should sue these cool people and just be like,
I'm glad you brought that up too, because I wanted to talk to you about like the Joe Manganiellos and the people like that are like these people.
Man, fuck that guy. Don't get me wrong, I love the guy. I love his acting, but still, fuck that guy.
Oh, is that what you said? I thought there was I would somewhere in the middle of that there.
Now his wife, on the other hand, is just but I mean, the man is beautiful and he's a giant nerd, and it's like,
which is awesome, and I love that part. But there's that he's profiting off of it. He's profiting off of his fame and the pop culture of D&D, and so I have really mixed feelings about if he's bringing more people into the hobby, then he's profiting off the hobby.
Well,
that'd be the thing that would make a difference to me.
There's a funny story about him. I don't know if you guys knew this, but he has a huge house in Beverly Hills, and to get in his D&D group is incredibly hard. Like, you have to be like on the it list to just play with him.
It's almost like Frank Sinatra's poker table.
Yeah, or like, to go into the Copa, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the funny thing about it was, originally, when he had this basement, his wife was going to make it a Pilates studio. And his wife was like Sonia Vergara, I think her name.
Sophia
Vergara, yeah. And she was going to make it a Pilates room. Before she got to do it, he made this big, giant, super nerdy D&D room with, like, busts of, like, beholders and stuff like that, and mind flayers or whatever, which I thought was incredibly cool and awesome. But, there's a part of me that's like, how do these handsome guys play D&D? Maybe he was like a closet nerd. Like, he worked out a lot, but on Friday was his rest day after he did legs, and then he played D&D, I guess.
So long as it's, like, a legit thing. I just worry about people capitalizing on the popularity. People do that, and people we're living in a capitalist society.
Yep,
that's just it. If you can find a way to make some money off of it, go for it. But
but if it encourages cool people to play games, it's a good thing.
As long as people are enjoying it,
it's a good thing. Funny thing though that you guys will laugh at. No, wait. The last sign didn't come on yet. The last sign didn't come on yet.
Dang it.
Man. Sorry. Look, I hate when I go on these shows and they try to humor me. It's just terrible. I like the shows that like this, like Rush
amateurs.
Limbaugh, you idiot! You don't know anything about gaming. Get out of here, nerd. No. So you guys know Lisa?
Yeah.
Lisa is someone we play with.
Yep.
She was the one who got me the job at Full Sail.
How'd that happen?
She was friends with the program director at Full Sail, and the program director at Full Sail, who's making the program that I'm still currently in, said, does anybody know a PhD who's really into nerdy gaming? And Lisa went, a PhD with nerdy gaming. And then she goes, Dan Siegel. And then she called me, and I was just like...
And he regrets it to this day?
Your program director.
Your program director.
She was a she too.
Okay. Oh, she was. Okay.
Her name was Holly, but no, she's not there anymore, so she doesn't regret it at all. She's just like, well, he's your problem now. Ha ha! And she jumped on a goblin flyer and flew away, and threw a pumpkin bomb, and it was all insane,
Nice.
Did you? So you already had your degree in gaming?
I had a PhD in instructional design, specifically in instructional technology, and the PhD was about introducing software to like resistant environments, but really it was about introducing gaming to resistant environments. It's just at the time professors were just like, "Boo, gaming, that's a waste of time," and now it's like people have me speak at conferences like Serious Play and all these other cool conferences about gaming.
Well, like you were saying, I mean, that is games. We are the resistance.
We are.
Gaming is big money. I mean, you know firsthand, but like the games on the phone, it's all those in-app purchases and people just making insane money.
Well, it makes more money than like movies and radio and music combined. But yet it's so funny because it gets like almost no respect from other. It's like the Rodney Dangerfield of media.
Yeah,
you know, from other avenues, it doesn't get the respect I think it deserves. Like, why don't they have game awards that are as popular as the Oscars or the Emmys or the Grammys? I mean, they have awards, but it's not like, on NBC this week, we're going to find out does Resident Evil beat out Laura Monroe. Laura Croft.
Yeah.
Sorry, Laura Monroe's my friend who lives over here, and I don't know.
But that's how, like you were saying before, the way that our society works. You have the old things in the society that get grumpy after a while, and they complain, and they... they blame the new guy. So, gaming is the new guy or gal, and now the old folks are complaining and griping. And
there's a lot of complaining millennials. I shouldn't say that because my wife's one, but you get complaints on both sides. But again, I mean, I hope that with the new TV show, like you said, Warhammer gets the respect it deserves, and Wargaming gets the respect it deserves, because the canon is so rich. And it's really funny because Nafi, who's my roommate, he knows the canon like the Pope knows
the 40K.
All of it,
all of it,
any of it. And
that's
like
awesome.
I might make a joke, and it's just a joke, and he's like, "No, your joke is inaccurate. If your joke was accurate, it'd be funny." Damn, I was so close to being funny. Oh,
that's great.
It's pretty funny, yeah.
Well, you do some 3D printing?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with it. It's super fun. But here's the thing about 3D printing with Warhammer stuff. If you're going to 3D print figures, you got to get a resin printer, and you got to be pretty careful with that because it's toxic and it smells terrible. Oh. Now it depends on the color. Like if you go like fresh, the scent ranges, but it's super toxic, so you have to have like a dedicated room with great ventilation, and I do because I airbrush a lot. I really like airbrushing, but even airbrushing is like nothing compared to I've seen people go to the hospital for poor airbrushing because they were stupid and they didn't
really
wear a mask and stuff like that.
Huh.
People get really, when people get too cavalier with things.
Yeah.
And like I have a friend come over and I was like, "Hey, you really want one of these?" I had an extra one. And it was a rebreather. So public service message, don't be stupid. And here's the funny part about inhaling too much air paint.
Yeah.
The funny thing is when they take you to the hospital, they think you're a drug addict.
Yeah.
And they treat you like a drug addict. Because that's a huffing thing.
Yeah.
So please, wear a rebreather. It's really easy. They're really cheap at Home Depot and you can always wash them. But resin paint is way worse because it's toxic. It can kill you. The smell can kill you. And it's expensive. It's like a liquid filament you use for resin printers. I am a firm believer in the Prusa, Prusa. Yeah. That's a really nice printer, and it can do some really good detail for plastic, which I just basically use regular plastic. I get it from Hatchbox, and that's been a big help in making my city because I've been printing a shit ton of bulkheads. Because I'm trying to make a Necromunda city, but it's going to be for anything. So if you want to play 40K, I don't even care if you play Mordheim on it because it's kind of crazy cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It could pass for let's say a cutting edge city because a lot of times it's kind of like that Gothic design. Some of the things I'm printing, so it could easily pass for. We could easily make it something that's a skirmish, fantasy thing. But it's a lot of fun.
So what advice would you have for someone that's just getting into 3D printing and they're going to be printing just small scale terrain? They don't need a lot of detail or a lot of mass.
I would suggest, I really like the Prusa because it's very problem free. A lot of times when you get cheaper stuff from China, I had a Cheaty Tech, and they're really nice and everything. The Sesame Sports, first of all, it takes forever to get parts, and I find that the Prusa is easy to fix because all of the parts are, it's like a tube, vertical tube, and a flatbed, as opposed to like a box that you have to like fiddle with.
Yeah.
And I just think the Prusa is the easiest one and the most reliable one I've ever used, and I have 3 of them. And I like Hatchbox because I haven't had problems with it, because if you buy a cheap unit and you have a problem with it, then you have to call China at 3 in the morning for them to answer, and then maybe they'll send you a part and you have to figure out how to fix it or replace the parts. If you buy cheap filament, you're literally a glutton for punishment, because with cheaper filaments, they have imperfections in the filament itself that can royally screw up your printer and like clog it.
Yeah.
And one time, and also don't be too cavalier. I'll tell you one mistake that I made. I epically broke a 3D printer because I tried to put too many things on the bed. Because I was trying to make a bunch of different, and for some reason it like made a bird's nest around the nozzle.
Oh.
And it was like, remember in D&D Black Pudding?
Yeah.
Imagine if Black Pudding was eating your entire caravan. That's what it looked like, because I used black. But yeah, so go with the Prusa. They have used ones. I really like them. I mean, there are other ones that are good that, some people swear by Photons, but because they're like one of the big developers of 3D printers. And go with a decent brand like Hatchbox, because if you get crappy filament that's cheap, like even on Amazon they have cheap ones, it can really screw up your printer and screw up your prints, because basically what happens is it melts the plastic and it moves the nozzle or however you have set up. And if the filament clogs it, then all that crap screws
just
up
backs
your
up
3D. It just bags it up. Get involved in Thingiverse. Thingiverse is a great website. It's just phenomenal, and they have free stuff. But here's a trick. Check to see if it was made before. If it wasn't made before, be a little leery, because if you download a crappy model and you try to print it, you're going to break it. You're going to have a really crappy model. But if it has like a lot of builds...
So crap creates crap.
Well, actually, one of the best things I 3D printed was an emoji of crap, and my wife keeps it because she thinks it's so awesome. It was like the first thing we ever printed, and it's like a big googly eyes and it's a big poop, and I'm like, and she filled it. She had an infill, which means like she filled it in. It wasn't like 90%, and I'm like, I'm glad you used an entire spindle for a piece of crap.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, you printed this and it looks like crap, and we just kept making jokes back and forth about how crappy it was, and she kept it like forever. She's like, oh, it was the first great print, and I'm like, I want my first great print to be like a Demon Prince or like, some great model that knock off from Warhammer. But instead, it's just a big pile of shit. So
that's great.
Yeah. So that's some quick advice. But, buy good stuff. And if you don't have the money for a really good printer and really good, save your money and wait, because it's so frustrating. It's kind of like a car.
Yeah.
If you get a piece of shit and you're trying to keep it together, it gets more expensive in the long run and frustrating than if you just get a decent, reliable car that will take you to work and back, So, and keep an eye on it while you're printing, or else sometimes when it goes astray, it's like one of those horror movies, You know what I'm talking about, like Reanimator or something. Going. It's like, I'm just going to inject this, and then I'll just come back later after my pizza. And then you come, brought to you by Pizza Paradiso on Cimarron. The guy asked me to pitch them. And then he comes back, and it's this giant pizza monster, and he's shooting it with a shotgun. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, everything's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of 3D printers don't have a resume function. Is that right?
They do.
Yeah.
But sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, I'm afraid of answering this question. That's why I moved away from the mic. I'm like, ooh. They do, but sometimes it forgets where the model is. So like, it starts to look like a Venus de Milo, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or a Michelangelo's David without a penis, It's like, oh, I thought this is where we were going to stop at,
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's terrible.
Was that a Goonies reference? This is my mom's favorite piece.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, it was a Naked Gun reference. Remember when it breaks off and he's like,
oh, yep, yeah.
Yeah. Well, my library, my local library has a printer.
Really?
And I can just go online and submit a file, Now they only print from one file because they only allow me to upload one file. It takes about 2 weeks for them to print it and then get it back to me.
2 weeks.
Yeah. So
I'm glad they're not making you a pizza.
well, yeah. I mean, so like recently, for example, like I, with my daughter, getting into toys and all that stuff, I pulled out my old Star Wars, and our X-Wing vehicle didn't have the laser cannons on the wing anymore. So I went on Thingiverse and I found a set for the 1977 X-Wing, but mine was like the 1995 X-Wing, and I was like, they should be close, right? So I just sent it in and said, hey, can you print 4 of these? So then they got it back to me.
Did it work?
They did fit perfectly.
Oh wow, that's
yeah,
awesome.
It's great.
I thought you had to green stuff it.
No, it actually worked really good. But like you were saying, take it slow, try it out. If you've got a library that does it, and you can just pay them a couple of bucks to start printing you a couple things, just so you can get an idea of what you like out of it, because you wouldn't want to spend hundreds of dollars and then figure out how to do all this and then get the final product and go like, well, I never want to do this again.
Yeah.
So just try it out a little bit.
There's also, like in Orlando, the factory co-op.
Yeah, there's a few of those.
Yeah, it's really nice, and they actually help me fix my printers when I break them numerous times because I do stupid things. But look for co-ops, because they also have monthly meetings for 3D printing, and the people there are usually super nice because they have to appeal to the public. But, libraries, co-ops, they're great ideas for people who want to just get into it and look at it. And they also know people sell used ones, because most of the ones I bought were used, because like it drops in value at least 60% after they buy it. And
that's a good
doesn't
point.
mean they're necessarily in bad condition, but also it's good to know co-ops, because like I didn't even realize the hardware, the software that was in my printers was super old.
Okay.
Because I didn't know what I was doing.
Most of your game program at Full Sail, is it mostly digital gaming focused, or do you get branched out into role playing and tabletop and board games?
Yes, a lot of the gaming program too. We also do artificial reality and augmented reality and virtual reality and all those kinds of realities. There's a lot going on there. There's like game art, game design. I'm not really in the gaming department, believe it or not. I'm actually in the education department because I focus on teachers to make them more fun. But I do hang out with some of the gaming guys, and some of the stuff they do is just unbelievably phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they have studios devoted for students to work in. Like Dave Arneson, who's one of the co-founders of Dungeons & Dragons, has a studio. I mean, he passed away, but he has a studio there that students work in. And I was just there, and they're there Monday through Sundays, 24 hours.
He has the studio at Full Sail?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he passed away, but he has a studio dedicated to him. And we also have the Armada, which is the big gaming, cyber gaming arena. And supposedly it's like the biggest one in North America or in America or something. And it's
awesome.
like for student e-teams, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, that's neat.
Does Full Sail have like a dedicated team? Do they have their own e-team?
Yes, it's pretty cool, pretty wild. I want to be on the dedicated Warhammer team.
Yeah.
We would just go there and just be like a total jerk and power game,
Well, to be a professional player that travels the world to play in tournaments, that would be, I mean, that's what they're like, the games like Overwatch and StarCraft and like there's people that are completely, that's their career doing that.
I've seen it. It's pretty crazy. It's unforgiving.
I believe it. Yeah, there's some of the stuff I've seen, like the interviews with people and like the working around the clock, and that like, and it does tend to be young people. I think probably because of that's the lifestyle.
Yeah.
But I don't know how athletically that's a factor too. Like how your Olympians are usually younger. I wonder if they're like if you're a younger. You would know. You're the guy that works in the gaming department.
No, I'm just kidding. It's really big in Korea. That's what I'm saying. I'm not being racist. I'm just saying it's really a big
it caught
thing.
on there first.
It did, and they spend a lot of time playing it competitively. Like they've got the the different bars you can go to that are all just like game bars.
Yeah.
And they just game bars.
Yeah, I got you. I was with you.
and
I got a distant look in my eye for a second, but don't mind me.
I like your Zerg.
Yeah. Saw your pupils dilate over there. Or whatever.
Your turn life part or mine, Nicholas.
Yeah, I would love to see more of that here. I'm not into the network. I'm not into the computer gaming or the console gaming like I used to be, but gaming bars and people being aware of the board game lifestyle too. Like the more and more you're seeing bars that have board games, board game shelves. It's a thing.
I just wish that it became a later thing, like in the day, so that people would play more later in the day. Because when I work all day and then I get home and I see my kid and my wife and I have dinner and my kid goes to bed, here I am for the podcast, and it's like, this is perfect time for me to be at a game store rolling dice. People don't play this late.
That's true.
And I would totally be there.
I'd just like to say something to your listening audience, that family, friends, work, and religion are just obstacles to getting better at games. They're just obstacles at buying and painting your armies. Like when you see a guy and his like shorts are falling down and he has no wedding ring and he looks like he just got spit out by a dragon.
And probably didn't put on deodorant.
He actively did not put on deodorant. And he hasn't had a shave or a Brazilian on his butt in his entire life.
He doesn't have antiperspirant. He has anti-deodorant.
He is what we call a gaming hero. You heard a Guitar Hero, gaming hero.
Gaming hero. He's a gaming hero.
It is. So, you need to stop this whole, I came home from work and saw my child.
Well, following up on that same gripe, I just started looking around because I wanted to play some Adventures League D&D, but Adventures League.
No, you don't want to do that. It's scary.
It depends on where you land. It depends on who you find. If you can find the right group.
I tried that once. You know what that reminded me. I'm sorry.
No.
Okay, all right. I gotta tell you about my experience then. So I was like, I really want to play D&D, but like my normal group, I had like an ill, and my normal group was like busy. So I was like, let me try this Adventures League. And to me, God forgive me, and I apologize ahead of time to every Adventures League who likes Adventures League. But for me, it was just like speed dating.
Yeah, I could see.
It was like D&D speed dating. It was like, hi, how are you? Let's play a game. You sit down. Okay. Like, I tried to kill another party member.
Oh. Well, not always a welcome thing.
One of my titles is Asshole of Gaming, and you didn't get up to that one yet in the list I gave you. Well, because it was, okay, all right. I was playing a gnome.
Yeah.
In speed dating, that would be like a serial killer, though, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to kill the date.
What would be? I think like the equivalent would be if you farted on every date. That'd be like a social equivalent to killing your fellow party member.
So anyway, to make this long story even longer, I was a gnome, and I was like one of those arch thieves that could like use like mage hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trickster rogue.
Yeah, I was a trickster rogue, and this other guy was like just being a total dick. Because we were working with kobolds, and I don't know if you guys know this, but gnomes hate kobolds. And kobolds hate gnomes. And this guy was like, he thought he was right because he was loud. As opposed to actually being right. So I'm like, okay. And I told him, like, you just think you're right because you're just really loud. So I told the DM, I want to kill him when he falls asleep.
Yeah.
Because I was chaotic evil. I didn't care. and the DM said, no, I'm not allowed to kill a guy I will never see again.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, this is just bullshit. So, yeah.
So you were like the Adventures League equivalent of a serial killer.
I wish I was that cool, but they wouldn't let me do it. It was just like there was some kind of like it was like a restraining bolt because the DM wouldn't let me do it.
I know, but I feel like it's like you kind of missed what Adventures League is about. If your goal is to jump right in and start killing your fellow party members.
No, that wasn't my goal. My goal was to find people to play D&D with and have a fun D&D time and not be an asshole. But they just brought the asshole out in me,
That group exists. That group is out there. And I think, and particularly now, like I don't know how long ago was that.
Oh, it was years ago. But
yeah, I
think it's getting so hard at my own joke. It's just like I can't help it.
I think it's getting better and better.
Okay, all
right. But the challenge for me is the same challenge you were talking about. That I'm usually not done work until 7. And most of these Adventures League places all over town, they all start at 6:30. Somehow that became the universal time. Became the universal start time for games.
Because most of these kids' bedtimes is 9 o'clock, and they have to be home by 9, and they got to ride their bike home. I don't know.
But that's why we want to find middle-aged people that that we want to find the people that are awake and ready to game at 8 p.m. But then I don't want the responsibility. I want someone else to do it, and I just want to show up and play.
Wow. Have your cake and eat it too, Adam.
Exactly.
Is that it?
Exactly.
I have a topic that you guys should explore as a future podcast, or I'll come back. The topic I always wondered is, how big an asshole can you be without getting banned from, like, game clubs? You know what I'm saying?
What's the limit?
Like, what is your limit, you know? Because
Killing
it's like,
other party members when you're level 1.
or like even with Warhammer, you know?
And were you ever invited back?
It was an Adventures League, so you don't really get invited back. You just come back, you just show up. But I have to say, though, and I know I'm going to be really mean right now, so forgive me, Internet. This is a really mean statement, but I stand by it. A lot of the people there were like the people who don't get invited to parties, so they went to the Adventurers Club because no party would have them.
Yeah.
So whereas I thought I was a piece of shit for wanting to kill this guy who was an asshole, everybody else wasn't invited to anything either. So they were kind of like, hey, this could be interesting. Let's see this guy murders this guy in his sleep. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was the island of misfit toys, but they're human beings.
A lot of times you don't know what you're going to get. Where you go, you don't know until you get there.
Okay, Forrest Gump. Thank you, Forrest Gump. Good job.
I'm an advocate for the Adventures League, but
I'm
you
not
don't
against
know.
it, but it's just, you know, I think, like, I was hoping to maybe meet some people and pick up some people, but I was like, I don't want any of you people in my house. Nobody here in my house. So yeah, it's a big topic. Like in Warhammer or in D&D, how big an asshole can you be and still be invited back? But or how big an asshole you play somebody and you just crush him horribly.
Have you seen that the latest book of the General's Handbook for Age of Sigmar? They do this annual book. Has a player's code.
Oh,
so there's actual exactly. It's just like the steps to not be a dick while gaming.
Oh wow! So let me guess. Bathe.
It did have a thing in there about hygiene, I think.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be rude.
Don't be rude.
Be considerate.
Bring pizza or beer or food, some kind of food. Don't be like a moocher.
It didn't say that. It didn't bring up food, I don't think. That it say to offer to shake the person's hand.
Oh yeah.
Which that's one of the areas where they get the most flack because of people that might have AIDS, immune syndrome, or autism, or other kind of problems with having human contact.
Blindness.
Maybe because they
Measles.
Measles. Oh, measles. It might have the measles.
No. Measles is in Black Plague. Black Mirror.
Oh yeah.
That's that. Remember that crazy episode with the bees?
I've only seen the first episode.
Come on.
The pig fucking episode.
That was awesome.
And then I think I watched that by myself. Okay. And I went like, this is dark.
Yeah. It was really dark. Well, this is one with bees. It's really scary.
Okay, I'll check that one out.
Yeah, you gotta check that out.
But all these things, be on time. You know,
what about like high
don't
fives?
slow play.
Like I've high-fived autistic people.
You can stop right before we contact.
It's
just like
where you
right there.
You offer the handshake, but don't expect the handshake, or say I would offer the handshake, but I don't.
What about a back rub?
Back rub.
I'd be like, if I beat you, I'd like to give you a back rub. I won, so I'd like to give you a long massage with a happy ending, Nicholas.
I'd say the Adventurers League starts at 6:30.
No, I don't want any of them. I'll have to wear gloves.
Be a special event. It's kind of Adventurers League where you wear those masks, those like Venetian Mardi Gras masks, like that kind of
I have a story.
Eyes wide shut D&D League.
You don't know who showed up ever. You're just like, I've seen that mask before. And I think that's like a big thing is sometimes when you put yourself out there to go play at a game store, you don't know anybody.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to a place you're not familiar with sometimes. Yeah. You're meeting people you're not familiar with, and then you're spending all this time. It takes a few hours to play these games.
Oh yeah.
Like you want that time to be meaningful. You want that time to be fun. You don't want it to be awkward and all this kind of stuff. So there's that tug and that
it's kind of like a date.
Yeah, it's like you said. It's like speed dating. You're showing up and you're putting yourself out there, and you don't know if you're going to get what you like.
Yeah,
you mean laid? You're definitely not going to get laid, but you get a different kind of afterglow.
So you were just talking about 40K.
I was. Yeah. Because we were talking about Dan and I had played some Mordheim together. You guys actually got me into Mordheim. A little bit about Mordheim. I have a friend that lives overseas. He's in Indonesia now, and he was in South Korea for a little bit. But because, talking about games and virtual reality and all that kind of stuff, we started playing on Tabletop Simulator. Do you know about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we played on Tabletop Simulator, so I continued playing some Mordheim with him, which was great because people created all these boards and stuff like that. And then you could get all these models and different things, So I was like these like swashbuckling empire guys, with like muskets and swords and all that kind of stuff and halberds and but that was so Mordheim, great game, love Mordheim.
I love it.
So then we started talking. So you mentioned Necromunda,
yes,
and I just one thing that frustrates me about Warhammer is that sometimes it feels like they don't know what they're doing, and so they make us pay for it.
Yeah,
or maybe they do know what they're doing, and
yeah,
they're just making you pay.
Or
for
they
it
do
even
know,
more.
yeah, or they do know, and I'm the one paying for it, and somehow I keep coming back. But one example is like you're talking about Necromunda, and I think about it probably as like Mordheim because it was around from there was the same time as Mordheim, but so they 7th edition 40K I was playing, then they came out with Kill Team. So I didn't get it right away. I got it like a few months later. There was this deal on Black Friday, got this great deal at Sci-Fi, picked up Kill Team. Within 4 months, they came out with Shadow War.
Yes.
And now everybody's playing Shadow War. And then my friend is like, no.
Oh, okay.
Then my friend was like, I want to get into this, so let's get Shadow War. So I got the Shadow War book. Well, Kill Team at first was like, hey, play. It's like 7th edition rules, and then you kind of just adapt it for the skirmish or whatever style stuff. Then Shadow War was like, no, we're going to go back to like 3rd edition 40K or something. I don't know. Then and it was its own kind of like similar, but its own rule set. And then shortly after that, they came out with 8th edition, and then they came out with a brand new Kill Team with 8th edition, and it was like within a year I've bought 3 different skirmish 40K games
within a year.
Same game.
And it's all the same game with slight adjustments. They're just barely different.
Well, what you need to do is you need to buy one of those dry vacs, the wet dry vacs.
Yeah.
And just stick it right in your wallet. And then you'll feel so much better about yourself. Because you can open the garbage can and just pull the money out. But, at the store. Well, the reason I'm doing Necromunda, and it's something that I always wanted to do, is because I read this article that was written, and it was kind of jokey, but there was something that rang true to it, where this guy wrote this article, and it was like, the best time in my life was when I had a gang for Necromunda. And it was like, I graduated college, I got a job, I got married, I had children, and all this other stuff. But really the happiest time in my life was when my gang would level up in Necromunda and get some new weapons and this and that. My kids graduated college and they had grandkids and this and that. But the best time in my life was... So that's why it was so funny. But it was always something I just wanted to try. And it's really fun to 3D print a city. Mm-hmm. Now, I was telling you before that a lot of the pieces I have are very gothic.
Yeah.
So it can easily be converted to a Mordheim city. I mean, it's not going to be as nice as the one that Jamie brought, which is like my wife called it the Christmas Village. She's like, wow, you have your very own Christmas village. But the way she would say it,
you're right.
It was like she was like, oh, it was like she used the Sound of Music voice, like, oh, we have our very own Christmas village. Oh, the Von Tramps, they've escaped Mordheim.
That was an amazing...
Yeah, he had an amazing set.
I guess it still is. He probably still has it.
Yeah. He doesn't live far from here. So we could probably do it again if I called him, but, the Von Tramps.
But that doesn't really carry over to 40K as well as like a Gothic city can carry over from space to...
Yes.
So similarly, I had bought the Pegasus Hobbies series of Gothic buildings.
Oh, that's a great set and very affordable.
And they're modular, and you can kind of and they're very much the same in their Gothic style, so I can use them for fantasy level games or space games.
That's also how you paint it. Like, I mean, if you paint it aluminum, then it's going to be kind of hard to pass.
Right.
But if you paint it stone,
So Necromunda, like the new Necromunda?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Yeah,
It is the
the
new one with the new website. You sent me that link to the website, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
But the website, it looked like there were only 4 or 5 factions.
Okay, if you go to Yak Tribe,
Yeah.
they have a lot of fan-made factions that are pretty legit. They also have a fan-made rules, so you don't have to buy the book. It's pretty legit too.
Okay.
So you can you can play Chaos Space Marines, you can play Chaos Warriors, Chaos Cultists, Gene Stealers.
Gene Stealers
Yes.
make so much sense.
Oh yeah, Orcs. I mean, basically, it's the city. Necromunda's kind of. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, and I'm sure there's going to be an angry nerd out there who's like, "Hey, no, you're wrong. Your timeline is off." But it's basically the city where the 40k weapons are developed for the Imperium of Mankind. And it was kind of overbuilt. Like, there was a city in China called Kowloon City, and it was just like development on top of development on top of development. So it created this like kind of dystopian nightmare. And, when there's in-house fighting between houses and factions who sell weapons to the Imperium of Man, they couldn't bring like an entire legion or something to fight in a overbuilt city or an undercity or whatever, so they fight as gangs and skirmishes because it just makes sense. I mean, you can't do it. You can't do it strategically. So it can make for a lot of fun games, and Nuffy and I have been playtesting it a little bit. And I hope you guys come and play, because when it's done, it's going to be really cool.
I'd like to. I've got some recently ended up with some space orcs, ORK orcs. So yeah,
The WOG is strong with this one.
yeah, I'm looking forward to painting up some of those and
But yeah,
some
whatever you guys
bolters
want to
and
bring.
awesome.
It's not like a tournament environment. It's more like a drink a lot of beer and be really stupid and have fun.
Throw up.
Vomit is the theme. It's the string that runs through all wargaming. Vomiting somehow, just like from the people you're with, from the smell, from the rules, from Games Workshop telling you to have sex with a pig on TV because you have to buy all the three sets. And that's
Exactly. Right.
But in that case, in that scenario, you're the pig.
Well, that was the thing. They said either you could fuck a pig or you could buy
these
3
sets.
different skirmish games.
Or you could buy 10 different skirmish games and be the pig, Nicholas.
at that point, were you like, can I?
I feel like you've just lost all around.
He left. Okay, you got me with that.
Yeah, can I see the pig first before I decide?
No. Just have to guess that it's going to be an unclean animal.
So yeah, and this is probably why like Games Workshop will never send me stuff or us stuff, because I do have a few gripes, but I think that's okay. Like, we're allowed to be critical.
We're legitimate.
Yeah.
They're legitimate. We're not hating. We're not the kind of people that went out and burned our Dark Elf army when the system changed over.
You still have your Dark Elf army?
Oh yes,
It's a beautiful army.
oh
It
thank
is.
you. I
You
keep
should
adding to
post
it.
it because it's so beautiful. And I love your orcs too. You should post it for your viewers because they don't know how beautiful.
I like some of these new games coming out, like Warcry and Necromunda. I feel sometimes might be a little limiting. Like, I don't want to just play those games because they're limited. It's a limited model range within the faction that you choose.
Yeah.
So if I do play Warcry, for example, that just came out, and I'm looking at I have the new steampunk dwarves. I don't know if you've seen those from the website for Age of Sigmar or not, Dan. But I've got but they're not in the Warcry faction.
Not
So my death guys. So I'll be using my death army, and but it's just the necromancer and skeletons. And to me, like, that's not all of the death models. And so we're playing skirmish. The one thing I like about skirmish is that if you've got the points to put it on the table, you can put it on the table.
Yeah.
But you're just limiting the amount of models you can put on the table. So if
Yeah.
you got 100, so if you got 200 points to spend, you can spend 100 on a bunch of small guys and 100 points on one really big guy.
Yeah. I've been back and forth on whether or not I want to get into Warcry.
Yeah.
Because I on the one hand, I want to participate in the big thing, particularly if we're in this role where we want to talk about, what else is out there and talk about the things that excite people. But at the same time, skirmish is great. There's all these games out there like Mordheim that are already like doing the trick. Yeah, all these little games. I like the thought of, and this is when Age of Sigmar came out too, that the Ninth Age community popped up for Warhammer Fantasy, and the Ninth Age was this community of people that were just going to keep just making crowdsourced FAQs.
Yeah.
And just keep 8th edition going with crowdsourced FAQs and trying to write in rules for new factions like Stormcast and that kind of thing. I like that, and I think that I would like to participate in a Warhammer skirmish community and keep that going. And rather than dive in on Warcry.
Yeah, I'm keeping all my books from all these old games.
Yeah,
one of the reasons I'm into Necromunda is because there's such a huge fan base, and there has been since it came out so many years ago, and it's still an incredibly loyal fan base. And it's very similar in the sense, like, you know, you have 150 points for the gang, and you just divide it up by what they are equipped with.
Yeah.
You know, so you have, like, let's say by one guy a grappling hook gun, and another guy a grab gun, or, you know, and they have unique weapons depending on what the faction is.
Yeah.
But it's, like you say, there's such a great fan community, because if, let's say you want to play, like we talked about, Gene Stealers or Orcs or one of these, they have rules for it. And, you know, whatever we all decide to play, as long as it's, like, you know, in our house and we're just drinking beer or whatever, you know, you can kind of go with your own rule set to make it just more pleasant for everybody. Mm-hmm. You know, it doesn't have to be, oh, well, I have a kill team, but it also has to be Shadow War Armageddon, but it also has to be, and which Necromunda are you going to use, the classic rule edition or the modern rule edition? I mean, you know, it's all fun. It's all supposed to be fun, so don't worry. Whatever you want to play, we'll play.
Okay, one question that I didn't get to that I wanted to get to. How has your career affected your hobbies? And how have your hobbies added to or affected your career?
That is a really good question that no one has ever asked me before.
Awesome.
But in many ways, to answer your question, my job has kind of ruined D&D for me for a long time. I had to take a break because I would used to run my students through a campaign.
Yeah.
And, like, I just lost all taste for DMing because, like,
it's
kind of like, you know, you it's like if you're a pizza man, you come home and your wife's like, make me some pizza, and it's like, oh, I can't even look at it anymore, you know?
Yeah.
I want to make Chinese food, I don't know.
Yeah.
But so in some ways it's ruined, but in other ways it's only enhanced, you know, like, because I can't not play a game without kind of some part of my brain studying it and studying what we're doing and studying the mechanics of it and how it works, and, you know, that's always fun. In some ways it really enhances things, but in other ways, like, I think tabletop gaming will never go away, because I always, if I get away from it too long, I long for the tactile sensation of touching things and building things and painting things and putting things together. That's why I love 3D printing, because you can literally create anything from your brain. Because if you have, like, a decent 3D modeling software, which some are free, but even if you buy an expensive one, you can literally create almost any piece if you really have the time and energy for it. And you have a printer that could go that detail, but I don't really have a resin printer because I don't think they're there yet for what we as fans want.
Yeah, not for miniatures.
Not for miniatures. Yeah. No, not in my opinion. But eventually it'll come. But it's funny because, like, I still love to play, you know, and I still love to play with you guys because you guys are awesome.
Thank you.
I still love to study it. I'm much more of a player in like role playing than I am a DM, because I feel like I'm a DM in my job too much. So I used to always DM, but now I only play. And I love looking at new games and new gaming systems more because of my job, just to study them. Like, I buy Kickstarters just to read the rules and study them really carefully. And sometimes it's bad because I have a wife. And she's like, how much did you spend? What did you buy? Are you satisfied yet? And I'm like, I have to lie and say yes. You're like, oh, yes, honey, there's nothing else I want to buy.
I'll never do this again.
I will never do this again. It's like at the cartoon, I'll never do this again, you know? And it's just like, but at the same time, like, I have an overriding love for it, and it'll never go away. The passion of it will never go away. And my hope is that I can make education better in the world by incorporating gaming in it, because let's face it, a lot of education is really boring.
Yeah.
Like, it's really painful. Like, I have teachers come up to me, and I go to the workshops, and they're like, why should we entertain students? And I'm like, well, let me ask you something. Would you want me to bore you for 8 hours, or you want to be entertained? And she's like, I want to be entertained. And I'm like, well, what do you expect from your students? They're younger and less patient than you are, and they want the same things you do. You know, I mean, would you want your daughter to be bored 8 hours a day in school, or like entertained? No, of course. So I think it's a human condition. So I hope that answers your question. But I would say less DMing in my personal life, more playing in my personal life, and more study, and vice versa, more studying of systems and rules than I ever did before, because I'm trying to find that secret happy medium between delivering education as a fun way, and still having games be a significant component in changing the world to be a better place.
Absolutely, that's great.
Thanks. That was a good question. I was never asked that before.
Daniel, if people want to complain to you, how can they get a hold of you on social media?
Okay, if you like what I have to say, my name is Daniel Siegel on Facebook. I'm a Funromicon on Instagram. I work at Full Sail. And if you don't like what I have to say, my name is Adam Billings. My name is Mark Krakowski. Did I say it right? Kozlowski. My name is Nicholas, if you don't like me. Yeah. But if you do like me, Dan Siegel. Dr. Dan Siegel.
So no other Twitter or Instagram?
Oh, I'm Dr. DMS on Twitter, on Instagram, on Funromicon.
Funromicon. That's the main one that I see.
Yeah, Funi.
Or the Instagram one.
CROM. You know who came up with that?
Who?
Lisa. I was like, I need a funny name. I'm
like
sick of my own name.
Fun.
She goes, how about Funromicon?
Nice.
And I was like, okay.
All right.
So but I'm sure you'll post things that I sent you.
Yes, absolutely, I will.
Hashtag pigfucker.
Yeah, please don't put. Listen, I was trying to save the princess. Do you want the princess to die? I don't mind fucking a pig to save a human being.
This was a Mario thing? Mario Brothers?
No. The worst part was after I fucked the pig, it said, sorry, she's in another castle. Fucking bullshit. Like, I really wonder if that princess had a thing for King Kumbo or something like that. It's like, you ever like chase a girl and it's like, hey, is what's her name home? She's like, oh, sorry, she's not home. And you knew she was home. But she just said she wasn't home. Yeah. Like, maybe Mario was the bad guy in this scenario.
It does seem like that. He does kill a lot of
creepy.
people.
He's got the creepy mustache. He's a plumber, you know. He's a plumber, you know. Comic Paws. I'm just saying, plumbers, you know. That's all I'm saying. You hear me, plumbers.
Plumbers and pig fuckers.
But, you know, they both screw you one way or another. I'm feeling a little stocked up. Can you come in? Got any tools for this, pig fucker?
I got this 300-pound prize pig.
Oh, shit. 300 pounds.
There you go.
Listen, in my single days, I've done worse. See, back then when you were a nerd, you just took what you could get, you know. But now I'm a happily married man, you know, so...
So what do the orcs and pig fuckers say when they're ready to go to war?
Whoa!
What an ending. Wow, this went all over the place.
This has been an episode of WARlando. I am Adam. You can reach me as Warlando77 on Twitter or just WARlando on Instagram. You can reach Mark on Twitter and Instagram with the handle of WARlandoMark. You can reach Nicholas on Twitter and Instagram with the handle of WARlandoNick. Please leave comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And thank you very much for listening.